As you can see, this presentation is the design for instruction within the teacher work sample. And as you have heard before, it is basically it's the lesson planning portion. As we look into this, the first thing you'll see is that the standard, the TWS standard, is asking you to design instruction for specific learning goals. So as you can again see, we started by identifying the learning goals for the entire project. Now, once again, we are focusing everything we do on the learning goals. Your task is to describe how you will design your unit and how you will relate that to the student's needs and the learning goals and the other contextual factors. So, once again, you are looking back to plan for the future. You're looking back at the information that you have already gotten, and you're going to be using that information to plan appropriate, good, deep, or deep enough lesson plans. Let's look at the prompt. First thing that you're going to do is you are going to look at the results of your pre-assessment. Now, if you remember, during the plan for assessment, or the assessment plan presentation on this, what you saw was a huge emphasis on the fact that you must have pre-assessment information prior to doing any planning, because you're going to do an analysis of your student's performance. I'm now looking at that prompt under results of pre-assessment. You're going to do an analysis of the student's performance to determine how you're going to portion out the amount of time that you have for instruction. If you remember during the assessment plan presentation, you saw that learning goal 4 was something that was pretty well in hand for the students on the pretest. If that was the case in this situation, then you would not really have to worry too much about focusing a great deal of instructional time on learning goal 4. We will follow that up in just a minute with a different scenario. As you will also see, the table, chart, graph, I would recommend pretty much any one of those that makes you happy, or all of them. If you are going to use a table or a graph or a chart or a combination of all, please be sure that you have a narrative section that helps the reader to make sense of whatever it is, whatever you're trying to get across. Let's look at the next section, the unit overview. You have done this before. You can probably do it in your sleep. Provide an overview of your unit using a visual organizer, such as a block plan, again, a table or whatever, and try to make it clear to your reader what it is that you're going to be doing. There is an example of that coming up. Activities, please notice that you are asked to describe at least 3 activities. It does say at least 3, but please be aware that that's also the total number that is required. That's 3. You are not required or requested to describe in detail every single activity that you're going to do over the span of 5 lessons. What you are supposed to be talking about in those is the bulleted points that are just below the word activities on the prompt. We'll get to that in a minute as well. And remember that technology is here to stay. There is an expectation that you will use technology in your instruction. Please plan to use technology in your instruction. If for some reason it's not appropriate for you to use any kind of technology in your instruction, you will be asked to justify that omission. Now let's look at the results of this sample of what could be the pre-test averages for a class. Once again, I chose to use 4 learning goals. You may have 3, you may have 5. If you have 2, you probably should think about adding 1 or 2. It's all relative to what you're teaching and what your needs are. If you have questions about how many of those you should have, again, ask your instructor. Now, after administering your pre-assessment, you will come up with information that looks somewhat like this. This is a graph that was created by taking the information that was entered into a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet and then just used a graph was created out of that. On the pretest, as you're looking at the pretest average for the whole class, the graph, you see that on Learning Goal 1, the students pre-tested at nearly 80% as far as achievement is concerned. Let's skip over to Learning Goal 4. The students pre-tested at about 68% of already, that is, that they've already attained that level of achievement on the information that you plan to teach. Learning Goal 3, they already have achieved approximately 50%. Learning Goal 2, now on Learning Goal 2, they've achieved only 10%. This information is going to drive the way that you apportion the instructional time that you have. Remember that what you're looking at is this is the amount of time that you will spend teaching the part that is between the top of the graph and 100%. So if we look at this, I know the lines aren't straight. Sorry, it's hard to draw with a mouse. But if you look at this, these lines represent where you should put your instructional efforts. So you can see that most of your instructional effort is probably going to be required by Learning Goal 2 if you're really looking to get all of your students to 100%. Then would be Learning Goal 3, then would be Learning Goal 4, and finally Learning Goal 1. The good news here is that as you have constructed your pre-assessment, if you remember, you were supposed to, and you undoubtedly did, arrange that content so that it reflects the smaller points within each of the learning goals. You should be able to go back to the pre-test and to identify specifically what it is that your students don't know. Those are going to be the things that you will focus on when you put together your lesson plans for the next the next section for this design for instruction. Now, just a word of I don't know, just a technological word here. Down at the bottom left, note that sometimes live text will not allow you to copy and paste graphs from Excel. I don't know why this is the case, but it is frequently the case. The way to get around this is to create the graph, put it into a Word document, and then attach the Word document to the response section rather than trying to type into the student response. Just type or just attach this document, type it into a Word document, save it on your hard drive, and then attach the whole thing. And that can be, there's no problem with doing that.